So, welcome. We are MitoQ. Well, we are part of MitoQ. This is our first ever live stream, in case you hadn't noticed. And we are completely obsessed about cells here at MitoQ. And so we thought we would kick off our first ever live stream, diving deep into cells. I'm Liz Hancock. I am part of the communication team here at MitoQ. And I am joined by Grace Mitchell, who is the head of science and education at MitoQ. So Grace, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So as Liz said, I'm the science and education writer here at MitoQ. So working very closely with the science team and with Liz's team in communications. And basically our aim is to kind of take what's there in the science, all the complex jargon, and translate it into English, basically, for everyday people to just help kind of explain some of the science behind MitoQ and what it's all about.
Did you like how I gave you a promotion there as well?
Yeah, I did like the sound.
Yeah, I just promoted you right up to head of science. So our topic is why you should care about your cells today. Obviously, we care deeply about cells at MitoQ. But I think it's something that a lot of us maybe touched on at school and then never thought about again. And probably a lot of people still don't understand that much about cell health, or in fact why they should even care about it. I remember a tiny amount of my cell education at high school, but I wonder if you could share maybe how your cell health journey started. At probably high school, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it was high school. I just remember everyone kind of saying the one thing that they remembered from biology lessons was mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and that's all they took away from it. And so it was actually really funny to me when I started working here and we were talking all about mitochondria, and my friends would kind of say, I remember it's the powerhouse of the cell, I remember that. But yeah, when I was first learning about cells, I remember kind of learning about plant and animal cells and seeing how similar they were. And there are obviously differences, but just looking at kind of all these tiny little compartments in every cell, and it was just like a Russian doll effect of kind of looking at yourself and realizing within your organs there are cells, and within your cells there are organelles, and it was quite mind-blowing, I remember.
It's completely mind-blowing, isn't it? I mean, it's really, really hard to fathom that we are almost entirely made up of trillions and trillions and trillions of little cells, and if you isolate one, you can't see it with the naked eye, but actually our entire existence depends on those cells.
Yeah, I think it's a way of looking at ourselves that we're not used to doing. We're kind of used to seeing it in a textbook or in a scientific setting, rather than kind of equating cells as being ourselves and what we actually are, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, completely. So can you talk us through the main functions of a cell? And I feel like this is a question that could last the entire live stream because there are so many, but can you summarize a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a few key functions that kind of define a cell and what it is. And so one is that cells are there to provide structural support. So literally, the bones, the architecture of the building, the framework of who we are is all thanks to cells. Another is that they generate energy. And so that again ties into our mitochondria as being our little cellular batteries. That's what they're responsible for. A really big role of our cells is to divide and grow. So basically a cell's whole life cycle depends on being able to copy its DNA, replicate its proteins, grow. And as it gets to a certain point and it gets too big, it's going to split off and divide. And those divisions are happening in the trillions every day. And so that process of cells dividing and growing is how we grow as people. Another function is that they're there to store our genetic information and keep it safe and make copies of it. And then cells can have all kinds of specialized functions that are going to be different throughout the body. And that's really the biggest thing that separates human from bacteria, actually. The fact that we evolved that ability to have specialized cells with different roles rather than just being one cell that does it all.
I mean, there's so much complexity in it, and most of us don't get up every day thinking at that kind of deep level. So what does having good cell health mean to people on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think that when you kind of consider the fact that we are totally made out of cells, our mental and our physical health all boils down to what is happening at this foundational level. So I think, people kind of will have conversations going, I'm working on my health at the moment, I'm working on my fitness at the moment. No one really talks about, I'm just really trying to prioritize my cellular health right now. So it is totally this new, undiscovered field really at the minute, which makes it seem a little bit like mysterious.
Crazy talk.
Absolutely. But it's actually really, really simple. Everything starts in your cells. So if you're nourishing your cells and doing what's best by your cells and kind of thinking about the changes that happen as we age, then that correlates to your mental and your physical health.
I feel like you become, once you sort of become aware of the importance of your cells and that everything kind of starts inside the cell, you kind of become a little bit of a squeaky door, because you're talking to friends and family and they might be telling you about things like, I just can't stay awake beyond 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or like whatever they're talking about. I'm like, that's because that starts inside your cell. It's because your cells are stressed. And
honestly, as soon as you become familiar with the concept, it's just such a no-brainer, right? Like, why would you not prioritize trying to keep your cells healthy as you get older, because we know that small changes kind of snowball and accumulate. It's getting that conversation going, which is what we're here to do.
So then on that note, what can you talk about some of the things that can damage your cells or affect them?
Yeah, sure. So a big one that we talk about quite a lot here at MitoQ is the accumulation of free radical damage is something which can harm your cells. And what that is when our mitochondria and our cells are producing energy, which is what the body runs on for fuel, a byproduct of that process is that they release these free radical molecules, which are quite unstable and they can damage cellular components. And up to a certain threshold, those free radicals are useful. They have roles in the cell, but beyond a certain threshold, that tips into what we call oxidative stress or cell stress. And that tends to increase as we get older, and that oxidative stress can lead to cell damage and mitochondrial damage, and that has flow-on effects as your cells replicate and divide and pass those genetics on. So free radical damage is a really big one, and that also kind of ties into a lot of other things. So radiation from UV exposure, too much sunlight, toxins from pollution, from alcohol, drugs, other chemicals that we're using, unhealthy diets or diets really lacking in nutrition and nutrients that we need. I think also like a lack of hydration is another one, too much psychological stress, a lack of sleep. It's kind of all these things which we know are not great for us.
Those no-brainer things. Hey, it's what your mama told you.
Yeah, exactly.
Exercise, get sleep, drink enough water, eat good food.
Yeah. So all of those things are contributing to cell stress, and so we know those things aren't great for us anyway. But it's interesting to see in the literature, those things are stressing you out on a cellular level, not just on that macro level.
Yeah, I mean, one of the analogies I always use when I'm trying to describe free radicals, which is quite a mind-blowing sort of concept, is it's like throwing a dinner party and everything's humming along, you're having a great evening, and then you get some gate crashes and they start trashing your house and smashing windows and setting fire to things and spilling wine, and the house is your cell, and that kind of spirals out of control, and you as the host spend all of your time putting out the fires and looking after the damage instead of hosting the dinner party. And that's kind of, like if your brain cells, their job is to, do one of the many hundreds of functions of your brain, they're not concentrating on that, they're concentrating on getting their house in order.
Yeah, that's a really great way to think about it. And then kind of like hacking away at maybe the fuse box and stuff as well, just
soaring at the foundations as well.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's a really good way of thinking about it.
So then, what kind of areas of health will good cell health, if you are managing cell stress, what kind of benefits are you going to see showing up?
Yeah, so I think again, it's kind of a common sense answer really. It's just because every single part of our body is made out of cells. There is no organ, no body part that's not going to be affected by your cellular health. So not saying that, focusing on good cell health practices is going to magically kind of like make you the superhuman person or something. But good cell health does underpin the health of your whole body, and so it's a very kind of interconnected, interdependent process, which we're not used to thinking about either. We're not taught about that in textbooks, So that's why I think it's great that we've now got this platform to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I think a lot of people, when we're talking about MitoQ and all of the many benefits, or, just generally looking after your cell health, people kind of call BS on it, because you're sort of like, oh, well, you can have maybe better mental clarity and better daily energy, and you'll recover faster from exercise, and you don't get afternoon slumps, and you just generally feel more healthy, and as you age, you're kind of aging better. And people call BS on it because they're used to going, oh, well, I'm low in iron, so I take an iron supplement, or I'm getting a cold, so I take vitamin C, and they're used to those kind of single solutions for a single purpose, or even the ones that, they're not quite sure why they took it, but their mama told them to take cod liver oil, so they started taking cod liver oil. And when you say that MitoQ or good cell health can have these wide benefits, people they're not used to thinking holistically, head to
Absolutely.
toe.
I think especially in our Western kind of mindset, we're used to thinking of things as being in a vacuum. And so, when you're going on about the stuff happening in your cells, if you're not even at the point of thinking of yourself as a composite of cells, that's just totally not even in the ballpark. But it is interesting, because we've seen now that things like, people take vitamin C, as you said, after they have a cold. Well, that has been proven to be false. Whereas, MitoQ is clinically proven to help fight oxidative stress. And I think that we get so used to just accepting, we feel, brain foggy and we have low energy, and that's just what it is, just tough it out. Yeah, and it's but those are signs of oxidative stress, and this is clinically proven to help fight that, and we want to be living the best life that we possibly can. So why not prioritize your cell health?
Well, and also you kind of reach for the things that maybe get you through, instead of tackling it at the source. So have another coffee, or just have something sweet to kind of jack me up for the rest of the afternoon, but it's kind of it's a false premise type of energy, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
So many questions. How can you avoid cell stress? And I feel like I know the answer is going to be all of those things that your mum told you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is the super regular, boring things, It's you've got to wear sunscreen, really focus on a nutrient-dense diet, with all the carbs, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals that your body needs. Those are your cells at their very kind of basic level require water, oxygen, and food. And the food that you're eating is forming the membranes of your cells. So if you've decided you're going to cut out fats as a whole group, that affects the membranes of your cells. Another thing is oxygen, so we need to be breathing properly.
Keep breathing.
Yeah,
keep breathing.
Keep breathing,
everybody.
And other things that we can do are things like managing stress, really prioritizing your sleep. Again, there are certain genetic factors which you can't control, so it's best to just focus on what we can control. Part of that as well is having these good practices, having the good diet, having the regular exercise. You can help this along by taking clinically proven antioxidants too. So there are some antioxidants which are great for the general cell. MitoQ is an example, which is great specifically for your mitochondria as a targeted antioxidant.
Yeah, so can you, because I was about to ask that, we kind of dove in boots first, but we haven't actually talked about MitoQ, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, because our mission is, educating and awakening people to the importance of their cells and cell health. But I think it'd be good to just talk a little bit about MitoQ and what makes it special, and how it's different to maybe the everyday antioxidants that you might reach for on a supermarket shelf.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you just define MitoQ, it's defined as a mitochondria targeted antioxidant. But that in itself, those are that whole sentence is potentially something that people won't understand if there's not a little bit of context to it. So it's a cell health molecule, and it's It is a supplement, it's classed as a supplement, but it is a more advanced version of a supplement. So what it does is it's specifically targeted to your mitochondria to work as an antioxidant that fights free radicals at the source where they're produced. And most free radicals come from the mitochondria. And that ties into the story of free radicals are damaging to our cells. They cause oxidative stress, and that all increases with age and leads to damage to our cells and to our energy producing powerhouses, those mitochondria.
So why does it increase with age?
So a lot of things kind of tend to happen with age. We've got this sort of inbuilt clock, which is really interesting because across all animal species, you can see this clock moving at different rates. And there is this free radical theory of aging, which says that the free radicals increase with age, and that leads to all the hazardous kind of effects of aging. And while that theory it's not such a straightforward story, like you produce free radicals and that makes you get old and grey and blah, blah, blah. While that's not such a straightforward link, that is part of the story. Free radicals are associated with aging, and they do underpin a lot of the effects that come with aging. So it's quite interesting because no one is still 100% sure why we age, or whether there's one particular, protein switch that controls it all, basically. I think there's loads and loads of little molecular switches, but it's still a complex story, which is why this isn't an anti-aging cure. It's something to help you age in a healthy manner and something to support your cells as you're getting older. And rather than kind of saying, this magical supplement is going to cure.
I mean, anti-aging definitely is something we just kind of strike off the vernacular at MitoQ, because our whole focus is about living. It's not about anti-aging. It's kind of a misnomer. We just want to help people to live in good health for as long as possible, right?
Totally.
So why then is having a mitochondria targeted antioxidant important versus a regular antioxidant?
Yeah, that's a really great point. So the mitochondria, as I mentioned, produces most of the free radical damage that happens in the cell. So it's also the biggest target for damage in the cell. And so most ingredients can't actually get into the mitochondria because it has this double membrane. It's hard to pass into. And MitoQ was originally invented off of CoQ10, which, as people may have heard of, that's an antioxidant that naturally exists in the kind of energy producing machinery within your mitochondria. But the problem with CoQ10 is that it is quite big and it's not that easy to get into the mitochondria itself. So here in New Zealand, our founding scientists found a way to kind of tweak the CoQ10 molecule so that it was smaller and then it was attracted directly to the mitochondria. So it just fulfills a niche that most other antioxidants cannot do. Mitochondria targeted antioxidants are like a very kind of cutting edge thing in biotech. So the beautiful thing about this too is that it means some of our formulas can pair MitoQ with general cell antioxidants as well, and kind of focus on, primarily we want to go to the source of cell stress and address it at the root. And then we can also manage that antioxidant supply at the cellular level too.
Okay, I'm going to stop talking about MitoQ because we need to stop talking about ourselves. So telltale signs that your cells are stressed, I feel like we've kind of talked to this anyway. It's kind of your classic fatigue. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about some of the other signs?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the important thing here is that every individual person is different, and we all know someone that's like eats super unhealthily and maybe they party every weekend or something, but they still tend to feel amazing and their health is awesome, and maybe until they hit 40 or 50 or something, and then maybe it all comes crashing down. Yeah. But so it's really about kind of paying attention to your body and what's going on in your body. And I think, again, this is things like when you're feeling really brain fogged, when you have really low energy, it's difficult getting to sleep at night or getting up in the morning, you have those general kind of aches and pains. Those are all signs of oxidative stress. And I think just getting used to paying attention to that while your body is whispering before your body is shouting is how I like to think of it. And accepting that that's not just life, like you can actually do something about that in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big kind of revelations. I don't know, certainly for me when I first started taking it, I was in my, I think, late early 40s, and I was working as a journalist, and I came across it, really loved the science, started taking it, and being honest, didn't feel a massive boost, but I believed enough in the science to know that it was something that was good to take for my long-term health. For many reasons, having another child, I stopped taking it again, and when I came to work at MitoQ a few years ago, I started taking it again with zero expectations of what I was going to get out of it, and then was really surprised. A couple of weeks in, I just woke up one morning and went, oh, hello, hang on, I feel like bouncing out of bed. This is unusual. But I think we hear it time and again, all of our customers have different experiences. All of the Mito crew have different experiences.
Yeah,
because
totally.
we're not all cookie cutter, are we? So
absolutely. When I started taking it, I was the same. I didn't really notice anything super obvious, but then when I was doing a workout, when I was doing exercise, I noticed that I could just push that bit harder. And now if I don't take MitoQ before going to the gym, it's like, what was I thinking? I really need to go home and get my MitoQ. But I think that's a great thing, because everyone does experience it differently, and it's not one of those things where we're like, please take it, please see the effects. People will write in and just say, it's done this for me, or it's done this for me. And so everyone does have that kind of individual experience.
People are all different.
Yeah.
Okay, what do cells need to be healthy? So they need good food, water, sleep,
yes,
exercise, all of that kind of stuff.
All of the things that your mum tells you to do.
MitoQ if you can get it. Okay, well, we might see if there are any, if anyone is listening or watching and has sent in any questions. I forgot to ask people to send us questions. We have one here that is, you've been talking about aging, and definitely, me personally, as I've aged, I've definitely noticed a need and a difference taking MitoQ. But what about if you're younger, you're still made of cells, but the maybe kind of decline of the health and functioning of those cells? Like, should you be taking something like MitoQ, or is it a waste of time? What?
Yeah, so this is a good question, because when you're younger, things tend to be working more smoothly, like you haven't accumulated all that damage that's kind of built up over the years. And so from that perspective, you could say, you don't need to take it, everything is still running pretty well. From the other point of view, I think that being aware of cell health when you're young and thinking about your cell health and then building those good practices into place, kind of again, it's that snowball effect, right? It's like you're kind of got those good practices in place now, and if you're preserving your cell health and you're thinking about kind of minimizing the damage that you're doing to your body, and that may look like just, the basic things like the sleep and the diet and the hydration, that may look like taking MitoQ as well. It's really just depends on the individual person and their needs. So that can be really helpful. I think, there's some young people who I would say it's not a priority for them. They don't need to take it. Me, I definitely am like, I need to take my MitoQ, because I just noticed what a huge difference that it makes. So I think it does come down to the individual and what their priorities are.
And their energy needs, their sort of lifestyle needs. I know we have a lot of young sports people, particularly a lot of young cyclists, like 18, 19-year-olds who have crazy energy needs. They've got to go out and kind of perform on the bike for hours of the stretch, and then recover really fast and be out on the bike the next day racing. And a lot of those cyclists have been taking MitoQ for a good year or two, and they really are really a testament to how it can help them do that day in, day out.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, and I was reading a study recently actually. Obviously it's more of a common problem that people aren't exercising enough than that people are exercising too much, but research is starting to show that over exercising and over training, or the amount of training that you're doing at the elite athlete level, does correlate with mitochondrial kind of just decreased respiration.
Yeah, because your oxidative stress is really high if you're doing
absolutely,
sport,
yeah, and that can kind of accumulate and affect your mitochondrial function. So for them, if you're doing loads of exercise, I think this study was kind of just based on high intensity interval training. So if you're doing lots of exercise and you are falling into that category of really pushing it to your upper limit, then taking MitoQ is a great idea.
You mentioned studies then. I want to kind of touch on that because I know MitoQ just crossed 700 research papers, studies, clinical trials, which is pretty huge. It'd be great for you to talk to that a little bit because I know a lot of people don't actually understand that we don't actually fund all of those studies.
Yeah.
We have no influence on what people are studying MitoQ for. We literally just provide the molecule for the science community around the world to go and kind of see what it can do.
And I totally understand people's confusion around this because if you haven't come from a scientific background, the way that the research works can be really confusing. And it doesn't help that, you have got, in some cases, companies will be sponsoring studies and conducting their own studies. So I think the key difference here is, we have scientists coming to us asking to use MitoQ in their trials or asking to use MitoQ in their studies. So it's not us, going out and paying scientists to study this and make up these results about us or something. So it is all independent research, it is peer-reviewed research. Any kind of biases or vested interest statements have to be laid out. So we don't have a sway on the results unless it's a study where we're directly working with the researchers, which is very
funded it
rare.
and it's all called out.
Yeah, absolutely. The most that we would do would be just to provide product to them because MitoQ is the only place where you can get MitoQ anyway.
Yeah, so our unique ingredient, mitoquinol mesylate, was created by our co-founding scientists, and MitoQ is the only place where you can get mitoquinol mesylate, which I think is also, a lot of people don't understand. I've sort of seen comments on chat groups going, oh well, it's just mitoquinol mesylate. It's nothing special. It's like no, we're the only sellers. We created that. Like nowhere else has
absolutely.
This.
So I think that's a really great point to emphasize. It's that we have researchers coming to us wanting to use our product. They're excited about MitoQ and they're excited about what the molecule can do. And so we just get to kind of find out all this awesome stuff that
it pops up all the time, doesn't it? It's like, wow, it can do that too.
Absolutely.
I think also what's really exciting is, when our molecule was invented, 20 years ago, it was right at the start of the cellular health kind of explosion, and back then no one really knew much about cellular health. Hell, a lot of people didn't really even know that much about mitochondria beyond the basic kind of physiological functioning of it. But since the invention of MitoQ, this whole area is absolutely exploding. It's kind of one of the biggest waves in healthcare coming, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And mitochondria in general have been overlooked for a really long time in biology. So as kind of science is progressing and we're learning more about the mitochondria and everything that it can do, that's why our studies have been ramping up so much as well.
Yeah, there's like this huge uptick.
Absolutely. And so much like, maybe 20 years ago, no one really knew how probiotics worked, or 30 years ago may have never even heard of them. I can see MitoQ going the same way as well, where right now we're all thinking, what on earth is a mitochondria targeted antioxidant? And in time as that knowledge kind of builds.
You reckon at some point we'll all be done at the pub chatting about mitochondrial health?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, needs a bit of support. I think we've got another question. So if you're taking other medications, do you need to worry about adding MitoQ?
So this is a really good point. Unfortunately, we don't really have studies comparing taking MitoQ and taking medications at the same time, and that's something that we would really love to have some research done on. But at the moment, we can kind of piggyback onto some of the research in CoQ10 a little bit, just because they do have similar functions. Again, not the exact same thing, but similar functions. So we would encourage anyone that's taking specific medications to get in touch with us and talk about the individual situation. But in general, MitoQ doesn't have any known contraindications, so you're fairly certain that you're in the clear there, but just get in touch with us if you have any specific concerns.
We'll talk to your healthcare professional.
Yes, definitely do that.
I'm going to ask you a quick fire question. What is the craziest thing you know about cells?
Oh,
Try and pick one because there are so many.
I think what immediately comes to mind is I'm just fascinated by the fact that since the dawn of kind of multicellular organisms and before humans ever walked the earth, there was this kind of initial DNA program that was installed into the first multicellular thing ever. And over time, that program has had little bug fixes and little updates and tweaks from generation to generation. But that same ancient script is what is still in our cells today. It's the same program. It's the same early installation. So that is fascinating to me because cells don't, that we know of, have a consciousness. They don't know what they're doing. They're running off of this ancient manuscript, and they're running off of chemical gradients and bioelectric signals, and that's how our cells are working and doing all of these amazing reactions. So to me, that is just mind-blowing. And the fact that if you were to unravel that script, I think it would extend all the way to Pluto or something like that.
Yeah, I've read that. I mean, that's incredible, which if you take that on kind of, you know, every human on the planet is okay.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah. Okay, one final question. What is your favourite cell or part of a cell?
Oh, I feel like I am biased here, but
I love that you can do that so quickly.
Yeah.
So I feel like, actually,
something I
know
think about every day.
exactly what my favourite.
But my favourite cell is the human egg cell. I think what fascinates me about it is loads of things. It's obviously, as a reproductive cell, it has a unique function that no other cell could possibly fulfill. It's one of the largest cells in the human body. It can actually be seen. I think it's about the size of a grain of sand. And when you are a fetus in your mother's womb, you have all the eggs, or so we think at the moment, you have all the eggs that you're going to have for the rest of your life. So there's this balance between function and longevity here, where those eggs have to stay in pristine condition for 40, 50 years and still be able to produce a new human and maintain their reproductive capacity. And I think all of that is fascinating, but it's also what we don't know too, because we don't know why humans produce so many eggs that they don't always use. We don't understand, we don't even know whether we're born with all the eggs we're ever going to have or if they're still being created. Even just the way that it moves, there's so much that still needs to be figured out and so much that still needs to be understood, and I just think that's really amazing when we kind of think we have everything all figured out and there's still all this unknown on something that is just literally makes new humans.
And I've heard you refer to it before as like Russian dolls, which it really literally is like Russian dolls.
Absolutely. It's frozen halfway to becoming it's halfway ready to fertilization when it's produced, and so it's just sitting in this arrested state for decades and decades until a fertilization event might happen. So to me that is just super crazy.
And I know, I think Elon Musk a few months ago sort of said it's just insane that, when you're in your mother's womb, you decompress from one cell into 37 trillion cells when you're born, which is it's just a ridiculously short space of time, 9 months. I've had two children, so it definitely doesn't feel like a short space of time when they're growing, but actually for that to happen in such a short space of time is crazy.
And isn't it crazy to think that, like, do you have a daughter?
2.
Okay, 2 daughters.
I know.
When they were
my grandsons are potentially they're already
they're ready to go.
But I felt like when mine were born, I was like, I know, I knew you.
Yeah,
I knew you turned up unbeautiful.
And you did, because she's been with you all your life.
Exactly. Well, that is a great place to maybe finish things up. Thank you for joining us, if in fact anyone has joined us. And it would be great if anyone could put comments in. Did you find that the most boring live stream that you've ever watched, or did you love it? What did you like? What did you hate? Let us know if there's anything you would love us to cover in another one. And if you've got more questions, keep an eye out on our website, our social media. We've got a forum coming up soon where some of our experts will be answering your questions. We work with some really amazing people, experts in sports, in health and well-being. So we will be starting some live streams with them as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.